Hey there, how you doing? This is my first stream of the year 2026, and I'm starting it with this forecast about the new moon in Capricorn, which I think is pretty exceptional. It's got some very, very strong planetary aspects. Now, when I look at new moons and full moons and eclipses, I follow a fairly similar format. I'm looking at the planetary picture, the planetary weather, you could say. You know, what aspects are connecting to the new moon or the full moon or the eclipse in question? What are those aspects? What are those collaborations and relationships from planet to planet? What are they describing? And this one has got a very, very strong pattern. Now, I don't know about you, but I like to take my time as I hit into the new year. I really like to feel my way in. I really quite like the Capricorn energy for being slow and steady, but also to really think about what I'd like to build up with persistence. And I think this new moon right at the end of Capricorn is giving us a great launch point for something really special, really personal for us. So that's what I want to do, is dive in and have a good feel around. As usual, I'm also going to be looking at the Sabian symbol for this particular new moon, and also some of the asteroids, named asteroids, classical asteroids, anything that is grabbing my attention and also playing into the overall energy. So hopefully by the end of this, you'll get a really good idea about how you might choose to use this energy. Remember, new moons are all about the potential of new starts. And of course, where we are right now, I'm recording this on the 13th, a full 5 days before the new moon. You know, we're really in the waning moon phase right now, just kind of shedding what's no longer needed, like letting go of a lot of things, kind of shaking things off and getting ready for that feeling of clearance, that feeling of, you know, a beautiful clean slate. And I absolutely recommend getting that clean slate, but also having a think about how you want to build from this new moon in Capricorn energy. So anyway, let's bring up my first chart. If you're new to this channel, by the way, my name's Louisa, Feel Good Astrology. I've been practicing under this name for ages now, 7 or 8 years. I've definitely had quite a lot of fun with it. You know, the whole purpose of me talking about astrology is I'm absolutely committed to it. I love it. I find it useful. I like to share information that I think has worked for me. It's worked for clients, and I just want to share as much astrology as possible. In fact, my focus in this year ahead is more on teaching and coaching than it is on forecasts. In fact, I think my channel is probably going to be realigned to that sort of teaching focus. I think it's such a good tool, and I'd love to help. I really want to be part of the movement to help spread it further and further, and to help people like tune in to what they're really passionate. So if you are somebody who absolutely wants to learn about astrology, or maybe go back to the beginning and explore it, then just get in touch, because it's absolutely what I'm committed to in this year ahead. Anyway, the new moon in Capricorn, let's have a good look. So look how clean that chart looks. You know, there's, you know, often when you're looking at charts, you know, the planets are all over the place. You know, they're really sort of evenly spread out. But with this chart, we've got this really strong little tight focus point. And it starts here with Mars. Then it connects in with Mercury. Then we've got the sun and the moon, obviously in a conjunction. And then we've got Venus and also Pluto. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 planets, all within 7 degrees of each other. So that's a lot. That's 6 planets all in a conjunction with each other. Now, that is pretty unusual. But what is even more unusual, I think, is the fact that they're all also in a trine with Uranus here. And they're all also in a sextile with Saturn and also with Neptune. So not only have we got 6 planets working together, but we've got 9 planets that are all kind of connecting to each other. I mean, that is really, really unusual. In fact, that's all of our planets. Oh, no. There's Jupiter over here. And, you know, some people you might count Chiron in there. He's not actually a planet, although a lot of us use him as if he is a planet. But that's a lot. That's a lot of solar solar system activity all connecting up. So, this is a very connective new moon. There is a lot of power here, ready for us to be able to use, to springboard something. Now, the next thing that really catches my eye, you'll notice here that we've got these really bright blue bands, and that's because the kind of connections that we've got from all of these planets down here to Uranus, they're in a trine. It's known as a trine. I've put it in here. Uranus is a planet that has a lot to do with brand new ideas and things being really far out. And so there is a really harmonious, really sort of talented, shifting, flowing energy between all of these planets and Uranus. So this is a really inventive new moon, really is about bringing us into a whole new way of being, a whole new relationship with our life, you could say. So I do think this is going to really shake us up quite a bit. We've also got this lovely couple of sextiles. Now, sextiles I think of as aspects that are building blocks, the gifts. They're really like the little gifts, where there's something that's easy, there's something that's a bit of an opportunity. It creates a sense of industry, I think. And so there is this sense of the wheels are turning, the cogs are turning. There's something to move forwards with. There's an idea, there's emotion. So yeah, there's a lot of great stuff. So let's go through this one by one. In fact, actually, just before I do, I realize I need to invite you along. So if you are somebody who wants to explore the new moon in a session, completely free session in my community, every couple of weeks I'm going to be holding something called the Living Moon, which is going to be a session either about the new moon, the full moon, or an eclipse. And we're going to sit down, we're going to be talking about the energy that we've got to play with, how you might want to activate it, what part of your chart is coming up. And so it's really about getting in tune with the moon and working in accordance with the moon's patterns. If that's something that is of interest to you, like I said, it's completely free. Just go to my absolutely, completely 100% free to join school community. It's www.school.com/Feel Good Astrology. And like I said, I'm actually going to host it tomorrow night. That is Wednesday, the 14th of January. We're going to be meeting at 8 o'clock London time to talk specifically about the new moon and how this is going to be activated in your chart. Anyway, so we've got the new moon in Capricorn down here. It's part of this stellium. Like I said, when you've got 6 planets together, that's absolutely a stellium, but you get a stellium with just 3 planets in a conjunction together. So this is very unique and special. We've also got like I said, the stellium is in a trine to Uranus. So that's 6 trines all to Uranus. We've also got 6 trines to Saturn. Sextiles, 6 sextiles to Neptune. And then Uranus is also making sextiles to Neptune and Saturn. So that is a whole heap of really positive, forward thinking change work right there. Now, there is, I think, when you've got a chart that's got too much blue, like a load of blue, yeah, it brings about a lot of opportunities, but can also show where we get a little bit, we rest on our laurels a little bit, maybe things are just really, really easy. Sometimes we need a bit of grit to get us going. And we've actually got this kind of grit or this grittiness that's kind of passing out at the moment. And that's what I want to share. We've also got this separating T-square. So the sun and the moon are coming out of a square with Chiron. They're also coming out of an opposition to Jupiter. And you'll see that Jupiter and Chiron are still absolutely in a square. But what they were really showing us in this week coming into the new moon, and where I am right now as of today, is the fact that whatever we've been struggling with, like a core wound, you might say, especially one that recently has felt like it's a bit inflamed, like it consumed you a little bit and took a bit of time to work out, that is moving away. And so this new moon, it's really being birthed from whatever you're releasing right now. So yeah, I think that's quite a helpful little analogy. Whatever you have been working on hard in the first couple of weeks of January is birthing a whole new motion forward. So something to keep in mind. Now, these trines, I just wanted to sort of like demonstrate, if we had another trine over here, and when you see later on, and I've got the asteroids in, we do actually have an asteroid here. This is known as a grand trine, so there's a real whole bunch of flow going on. But yeah, this is a very, very flowing energy. Just to sort of illustrate these two sets of beautiful sextiles, one sextile just creates that sort of stepping stone. When you've got like two of these sextiles and also a trine, I really see it's also known as a grand minor trine, by the way, or a minor grand trine. But these little squashed, obtuse triangles, they are absolutely active. They're really creating a sense of getting busy and getting on with something, in particular, something that you have considered. It's like a bright new idea. It's quite far out because it's involving Neptune. It can be quite magical. And also because it's involving Saturn, it's something that you want to land, something that you're really kind of manifesting from your goodness, from your intuition, from your ultimate creativity, but really wanting to land it somewhere really deep. So that maybe it's even got a sort of sense of permanence, so yeah, I think that's quite helpful. And like I said, we've got this T square that we're separating from. So let's have a look at the Sabian symbol and get a sense of what else might be adding into this. Now, I don't know if you've used Sabians before. If you've watched this channel before, you'll know that I use Sabians, and I really, really adore Linda Hill's amazing website called sabiansymbols.com. And when you go onto her website, you put in the degree of what you're looking into. So I'm specifically looking at the degree of 28 Capricorn. When you put it in, it always gets rounded up, and then you get your meaning. There are literally 360 channeled messages, one for every single degree of the zodiac. And so this new moon is collecting into this, which is kind of interesting that I'm talking about forecast, because this is called a woman reading tea leaves. So anyway, this symbol shows being able to see things that others miss, or using the intuition in order to receive the gifts that divination can bring. Well, that makes this even more important, I would say. While others just see something simple like a teacup, you have the ability to weave a story for yourself and others about how life will or can be. One has to put aside skepticism and embrace trust and intuitive knowledge in order to be able to listen to the messages that are around. Be open to seeing meaning through the catalyst of your simplest of everyday events. You will receive messages. If you're open to seeing the signs, you may even have to deal with skeptical people. Symbolism that acts to open pathways to the spiritual center, reading things, non-verbal clues, tea and sympathy, divining the future, rituals, oracles, fine china, and guidance. I love that fine china thrown in. When it goes wrong, I would say it's when we're going into reliance for esoteric advice. I like how Linda always puts in these kind of slight warnings or contraindications. Not trusting gut feelings is, something you want to avoid. This is a time to really trust your gut. Looking for confirmation of fears, that's one of the damaging sides of fortune telling or looking at forecasts, is you can read into it what you want to see. Taking things literally and not symbolically. Excessive tea and coffee drinking. I love that. I've just literally got myself a cup of each, actually, funnily enough. Now, that's something that's obviously layered into this new moon. So there is this idea of prophecy. And like I've already shared, there's this sense of things moving forwards quite fast and being able to land something that feels quite magical and very much prayed for or wished for or planned for after a time of facing something that's being quite inflaming, maybe facing your own wounds, facing yourself really, really clearly. So to me, it feels like, we're releasing something, sensing into a magical future, one that is going to require a lot of innovation, a lot of sass, and quite a lot of courage, because it could get a bit chaotic, especially with all this Uranus energy. But here's another thought for you as well. It is in the sign of Capricorn, and that's one thing I haven't actually spoken about, and it's the most obvious thing to mention at this time. So Capricorn, it's the 10th sign of the zodiac, and if you were to consider the story of the zodiac, the 10th sign is about coming into achievement. It's the story of Capricorn is the mountain goat climbing the mountain and meandering, not going straight up. It's not in a rush. It's not trying to beat all the other goats necessarily, although Capricorns do like to get to the top and get higher than all the other goats. But the mountain goat, it's got tenacity, it's got determination. And if you've ever cared for goats, you'll know they'll eat pretty much anything. Like, they've got really strong digestion. There's not much they can't stomach. And I think that really speaks about the longevity of Capricorn. Capricorn, it doesn't fear very quickly. It has its sights at the top of the mountain, and it thinks about it, and it just thinks, well, if I just take this little bite here and this little bite there, I'm going to get there. And there is a sort of ploddiness about the sign of Capricorn. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is, the slowest moving planet. It's not the slowest moving, but it's the planet that is, I would say, very sort of deliberate with its intentions, very deliberate in its decision making. Saturn's really discerning. It doesn't want to be rushed into anything. It wants to take its own good time and make a decision that not only kind of fits the situation well, but also makes good practical sense, that it could age well. It's not something that's going to bring you into disrepute. It's not something that's kind of fly by night. It's, there's this sense of something really real that could be built here, something that could take you into a whole new trajectory. So what we're talking about here, I think, with the sign of Capricorn is, how can you create something super strong, super resilient, something that would really change your life in a practical and material way, quite possibly, something that you can dedicate yourself to. Because again, when you think about the mountain goat, yes, they've got strong digestion, but they're also very sure-footed. They can walk up mountains even, and I've watched them climbing on hills and things, and it's funny. You'd think they were born with, like, one side of their body, their legs are shorter, and the other side longer, because they seem to sort of manage steep hills really, really well, in a way that I definitely can't walk up hills, but they maintain a balance really, really well. They're very agile, and they don't shy away from things. And so, to me, it looks like you might have a really big goal that's about to come in, or a really big realignment coming up in your life that might take some courage. It's going to take some steady footing. It's not necessarily going to be easy, but you're not going to shy away from it. And you'll get there because you literally take a little bite here, a little bite there, and you carry on with it. Now, a couple of other things as well. Mars is very strong in the sign of Capricorn, and Mars is in an exact conjunction with Mercury. And so the thinking around the time of this new moon is really sharp. It's razor sharp. And I think if you're planning something, if you're planning to build something, make something, refine, renew, whatever you're doing, provided it's practical and it has a real purpose, the mind is going to be very helpful here. And the way you can communicate, you can really set something up with, I think, some courage. Mars is talking, like, this is, I think, asking you to speak with courage and to share your ideas and to share them with a sense of boldness, not to shy back. Again, that's kind of a Capricorn message as well. You've also got Venus in a conjunction with Pluto. Now, Pluto is powerful. Pluto takes his time. He absolutely knows he's going to win all the time. Pluto is super powerful. And with Venus, there's this kind of really powerful magnetism, a really powerful flow, as if as if you just know it's going to land. It's really almost kind of sexy, powerful, super magnetic, really strong attractions. Now, Venus isn't just about love. She's also about wealth and abundance and really good levels of flow. And so Venus and Pluto together could bring about a lot of abundance if you really follow what's coming up in your intuition and in your awareness. So, yeah, this is, I think, a very, very strong new moon. And the ideas that are coming up right now for you are seeding the next new moon, which is a solar eclipse at 28 degrees in the sign of Aquarius. It's our first eclipse of the year. It's a new moon eclipse. So again, it's about new starts. And so I really think if you've got a bold, fresh idea that you're going to have to concentrate on, be really discerning with, be quite disciplined with, and be really dedicated to learning something practical that could really help you create something that you've dreamt of for a long time, then this next eclipse or the next new moon, which happens to be an eclipse, is going to really follow on with that message. So yeah, I think it's sort of doubly important to pay attention to this. But anyway, what I'd like to do now is just finish off by checking out some of the asteroids that are kind of playing in with this pattern. So as ever, I went to www.serenu.com. That's SERENNU.com. And I put in the exact time of the new moon from a London time zone. I live in the London time zone in Portugal. And so I set up my chart that way. And then I did a search on Serenu to find out which asteroids and minor planets, dwarf planets, I just did a search to see what was playing into this pattern. So I was looking for things at 28, 29, 27, 28, 29 degrees. So I could get a real feel for what's really working with this energy. And of course, we got so many planets all tightly aligned together. And here's what came up. First of all, we've actually got two asteroids just either side of this actual new moon. So the closest one is asteroid Astraea, and Astraea is a goddess. Her asteroid number, by the way, is number 5. So if you want to search her on www.astro.com, you can pop her in. Now, she was the very last goddess to leave humanity to it. She lived on Earth with humans. I think she kind of found us a bit charming, and then she started to find us a bit disgusting and immoral. And, she's a goddess known for her fairness, for her justice, her innocence. She's kind of sweet. She was a virgin goddess, and she got kind of peed off with us humans and said, okay, that's it, I'm done. But she was the one that had the most patience. She stuck around. She was, I think, waiting for humans to get their act together. But anyway, she got upset, and she was brought into the constellation of Virgo so she could ascend into the heavens. And so that's Astraea. So at some level, she is here to represent the wish for humans to be even stronger or better or kinder or fairer or more genuine. And so that's also part of this very strong new moon energy. How is your idea or your set point right now about creating a fairer world, or a return to purity and a return to those very sort of Virgoan ideas? So yeah, that's something that occurs to me. The next closest asteroid to this new moon would be asteroid Diana. Now, asteroid Diana is goddess of the hunt. She's also the patron saint of childbirth and midwifery. She's got a real affinity to wild animals and the moon. She's known for being really, really wild. She's the daughter of Jupiter. So, there's freedom kind of set into her bones. She's really independent, doesn't want to partner up. She is her own woman, completely her own skin, really knows herself. And, she's really associated with feminism as well. I mean, she is really a strong woman that doesn't need to rely on other people. Now, that's not to say that this is only about women, because I really don't think it is, but it's that spirit of independence that just doesn't need or look for anyone else to pick up the slack. You know, this is somebody that's going to do everything themselves and do it really well. The idea of the midwifery and the child rearing is this kind of inner capability, this feeling that she's got this. She doesn't need anyone else to interfere. She's got this, completely got this, and she absolutely trusts herself. She's in tune with the moon. She's in tune with life. And she's a creature, she's a wild creature, but also with the wisdom that comes with being a goddess. And so I think she's teaching us something about our instincts here. She's teaching us to be completely instinctual, to really trust our inner knowing, and to know that we're not born completely toothless or clawless. We're not born without defensive energies. But our defensive, like, if you think about other animals, like I've got cats, and, if you pee off a cat, you're going to get scratched, possibly a little bit of a bite, but she doesn't need claws. She doesn't need strong jaws. She just needs to be able to keep her wits about her. She needs her instincts. And provided she can tune in to her instincts, she knows. It's like she was born with the guidebook to her life. Like, she absolutely has that instinctive knowing about how to find her place in the world and make it work with no need for anyone else. And so that's also a message about this new moon. How can that work with your energy on Sunday and beyond? Because again, with these new moons and full moons, I always think they're very potent for 2 weeks, until like the full moon comes up, and then until the next new moon comes up. They're like a marker, like the idea of someone taking a flag and kind of sticking it in the moon. Each of these moons, this new moon, this full moon, the new moon, the full moon, the eclipses, the degree that it happens at, so in this case 28 degrees in the sign of Capricorn, it's like a marker in the moon to say this is a really important point for the next 2 weeks until another one comes in. Then we've got asteroid house. Now, asteroid house, if you do a search for asteroid house on the internet, asteroid house is asteroid number on astro.com. Is 4950. You won't find much information about asteroid house, but I use it a lot. I've used it with clients who are wanting to move house, who want to describe their future home, who are trying to get in alignment with moving, like to know when it's about to happen. And I always think, this is just a little FYI, if you locate where house is in your birth chart by sign and by house, funnily enough, by house, it will tell you a lot about what you need to know, what will help you feel secure. But more importantly, like say house here is in the sign of Virgo. Virgo is ruled by Mercury. If you watch the alignments to Mercury, like if Mercury is going over the IC, which is the angle to do with the home, if Mercury is making an aspect to asteroid house, that's when I've noticed that asteroid house comes into its own. So anyway, asteroid house here is in the sign of Virgo, and it's in a trine with Mercury that is actually its ruler. So this, I think, is really showing us that something about this new moon is also about us feeling at home, feeling a sense of belonging, being able to move forwards in our house, being able to arrange our house, being able to work with our house at a much more concise and consistent level. So, this isn't always strategy in our minds. This is also about getting very grounded and feeling like our feet are absolutely on the earth and we're really, really at home. So it's a very strong message. And of course, if you are wanting to move house, then I think that could also be helpful. See where it is currently in your chart. And then we've got 2 more. And so the next one is Narcissus, who is right at the tail end of Scorpio. Now, Narcissus is a mythological character who falls in love with himself. You know, he was vain, and I think he was cursed, and then he was cursed to fall in love with the first face he saw, and he just so happened to look at himself in I was going to say the mirror, but in a lake or by some water. He saw his reflection, instantly fell in love, and then couldn't do anything. You know, his vanity got the better of him, and so there's an absolute sort of fixation on self. You know, he fell in love with himself, and then he couldn't think of anyone else. Like, nobody else's needs came into it at all. Can't see other people's needs, complete self-interest. And of course, in the story, it leads to his ultimate downfall, because he can't do anything other than adore himself, look at himself longingly. He'll never actually have a reciprocal love, because he's literally just looking at himself, and his self can't really look back at him. And so he's doomed forever to not actually feel love, because he's so disconnected. And so it's interesting that his story is coming up, because he's also kind of, I mean, on the one hand, you've got Diana, who sounds like fiercely independent, doesn't want a relationship, doesn't need a relationship. I mean, that is highly independent. And then Narcissus, who's so self-absorbed that he couldn't possibly have a relationship. But what Diana has is she has a relationship with life. She has a relationship with everything that is all around her. Narcissus only has a relationship with himself. And so what I see here is a rebranding of independence. I'm seeing that, you know, there's these really strong ideas as to what love is meant to look like in our world. And, you know, I think I'm not going to really get in trouble saying that we seem to live in a world that is really fixated on self. What I see here is the true connection is where we're really connected to the rest of the life, when we feel like we're connected to people, when we feel like we're connected to each other, when we feel like we can read the room with our instincts. If you remember, this is also about reading the tea leaves, like tuning in, having that sixth sense. And so to me, this is the ultimate in connection. This is the ultimate in an expansive new moon. I see this as being really, really beneficial. And then finally, funnily enough, another predictor of fortune, we've got Pallas Athena. And Pallas is in the astrologer sign. She's in the sign of Aquarius, very, very strong right now. And yeah, she's also working with every one of these different energies, not necessarily in harmony, but she's definitely part of the picture. What she's really strong for is reading patterns, having a cool, calm observance of things. So she's not particularly male in her thinking. She's a cool feminine strategist. She's really good at pattern recognition, understanding codes, languages, decoding things. She's fantastic at astrology. And so with her, you get this extra understanding of life from a completely new perspective, but it can't come in the mad heat of passion. It has to come from a feminine belief in yourself, this cool, calm knowing. So, you know, when we put it all together, this is a very, very practical new moon where we can absolutely create something that has a potential to shift and change the whole world around us. In fact, it could create some chaos in the process with all of these very strong trines to Uranus. But we really could be bringing heaven to earth with the connections to Saturn and Neptune. It's important to remember that we've got to feel a sense of belonging. Lord knows we've been tested in recent times with Chiron and Jupiter. It's brought us to our knees a little bit. It's shown us where we're a little bit sore. However, it actually looks really good. It's urging us to come back into our purity, to come back into our innocence, to come into our fairness. It's also encouraging us to let go of people who really aren't committed to the same things, not necessarily in disgust, but just to kind of move your vibration away. It's also encouraging us to tune into our instinctive knowing and to trust that we have everything that we need to get the job done. And I think it's really showing that we've got everything we need in our mind and also in our body as well. So they're my thoughts for this particular new moon. Like I said at the start, if you would like to unpack this in a safe environment, in a really supportive group, then come and join me in my online community. It's free to join. And every 2 weeks, I'm going to be hosting a new moon, full moon, or eclipse living moon session where we can go even deeper and start to come into balance with the moon's flows, really start to use it as a discipline and a practice for 2026. So it's nice to be back. It's lovely to do this. Leave your comments below and come and join me in school. Let's come play and let's learn as much as we can about astrology. Lots of love to you. Have a great new moon and catch up with you real soon. Bye for now.